Hi everyone, we're back for our motivation series. It's motivation hacks that really take what we have always been wanting our kids to have and putting it into action, where instead of feeling like we have to choose between motivating our kids
Motivation
with
our kids to
rewards
have
and
and
punishments
putting it
or
into action
bribes or
wherein
with bribes or rewards or all this constant negotiation, or even having to go quickly to consequences and punishments, that their motivation, their sort of source of what drives them can come from another place. And what we know about children, and what I can share with you from my 15 years of experience in the classroom, having raised two stepchildren who are now 22 and 26. I even have a bonus 7-year-old in my household right now. And with working with hundreds of families over these past 20 years, is that we often find ourselves in power struggles and having friction because we're trying to motivate our kids, or like inspire their listening, get them on board with routines, or get them on board with limits. We're really hoping to get the things moving more in a direction, whether it's getting out the door in a timely fashion, or if it's something more significant, like not hitting their sibling, or not giving up when they're trying something new, or being open to trying something new in the first place. So the science behind motivation is very complex, but we're going to break it down into 5 different parts over this series. We've already covered how to really hack into motivation using interests. And that's the thing that I think is the most obvious one. Like when you see a child really interested in something, then they tend to move towards it and put good energy into it and be motivated, and maybe even go above and beyond expectations, as opposed to when they aren't interested. So this is particularly helpful when there's a lot of distraction or boredom or annoyance. You're going to want to look at the interest, like asking that key question: what would make this more interesting? To learn more about that, go into the Raising Our Resilience group and check out last week's video. We also talked about another barrier to motivation, which is captured in the idea of competence. So as all of us have been there at some point, where you were approaching a project or a task, or maybe even a social situation where you didn't feel like you had the full skill set to be successful, and that slowed your roll, that slowed you down from feeling motivated to engage, to participate, to lean in to what was challenging there. And so looking at competence of like, wait a minute, is my kid here and I'm asking them to leap here? I had a client who would have the siblings, her two daughters fighting, especially one daughter treating the other one unkindly. And she would jump a bit to, okay, be nice to your sister, right? And it was like too many steps away. It was too far from where they were at. And so we talked a lot about it last week, about meeting the kids right where they're at and breaking that leap down into smaller steps with the power of scaffolding. So we covered interest and competence, the I and the C and the I care model of motivation. If you want, again, make sure you check out the video from last week. Now today, we're going to dive into the A in the I care model, okay? And A stands for, curious if anybody knows, put it in the chat. Also say hello, even if you're listening to the replay. What city are you tuning in from? What are the ages of your kids? And I'd always like to know, like, what's one thing you're struggling with, particularly whatever the topic is, which is right now motivation. What do you wish your child was more motivated to do? Get really real. Just let me know. It could be something as simple as wiping their butt after they go to the bathroom, or it could be something much more like complex, like my child won't try anything new. So let me know what it is in the comments in the chat, and I'll be able to respond to you personally. But we're also playing a little game of guessing. Yeah. So what is the A in the I care model? We've got interest, competence, and something that starts with A. Well, there's some clues in the post if you need to look for it. But what I will share with you is this is very highly tied to children having a sense of independence, feeling like they have some influence, like they have some control, like they can actually have some power in a situation where maybe previously they felt powerless. And what you will be looking for to use this hack is you're going to be looking for signs like they're getting power in other ways, like maybe being bossy and bossing other people around, or telling you, no, you do it, those kinds of things. They might also just be like getting into a power struggle where their no is really quick, yeah? Or there's a lot of resistance, a lot of pushback. This is often where kids are not feeling enough power and they need more of it. Okay, I'm going to give you another maybe 10 seconds to guess what that A word is. What is the A word? You got it, Elon. A for autonomy. Nice one. Well done. And Elon is one of our big-hearted parents in the Family Foundation's immersion. So good to have you here. I've missed you since our Motivation Mastery weekend, and I'm so glad you remember what the A is. Elon, well done. Points for you. So autonomy. Autonomy, it turns out, is one of the key ingredients for children being self-motivated. They do, like we all human beings need to have a sense that we're not just doing what we're told, although we probably need to figure out how to do some of that too, but we're not only doing what we're told, we're not always being directed and managed of like what is going to happen next. We're also being given, and here's the key thing, choices along the way and some opportunity to influence how things go. So my top 2 tips I have for you right now for autonomy are learn, like, please master the skill of offering choices you can live with, okay? So I'm not talking about choices like, are you gonna do it the good way or the bad way? Which sometimes we do. It's okay if you do this and it happens, but notice the difference between the good way and the bad way. So for example, like, are you gonna put that back where it goes, or are you gonna leave it there? That's not exactly what we're talking about when it comes to autonomy. Yeah. So that's more of saying, like, pointing out that they're doing something wrong and pointing out the blame in a way, like you better make the right choice here or else is implied. So occasionally we get there, but what we need to do is learn the art of offering choices we can live with. So that, and what it might sound like is, oh, are you going to leave that there, knowing that it will probably get put away for the week? Or do you think you might clean it up like we talked about, and that way it can stay out and be available to you? Like, let's say it's like a messy Play-Doh table and they're like trying to abandon it and they were refusing to have anything to do with the cleanup. Well, those are 2 choices you could live with, because either they do the thing that they agreed they would do, clean it up and put it away, or they don't, and then there is this sort of logical thing that happens next, which some people could call a consequence, and sometimes it is. And Elon will be talking about this more in our Q&A session next on Wednesday, about how the art of offering consequences in those choices. But if you notice, though, I can live with either outcome, right? What can change this back to the old way is saying, like, or you're not going to get to play with that Play-Doh, and then they don't do it, and you're like, fine, I'll clean it up, but you don't get to use it anymore, and it becomes like we're fighting with a 4-year-old, I'm imagining, right? Or fighting with a 5-year-old over the Play-Doh, and it's not really relationship building, and it sure doesn't inspire them to get on board, at least not from the place of like responsibility, maybe out of fear or maybe out of rebellion, so maybe anger, like, fine, I'll clean it up, doesn't really get you to that place where you feel connected and things are running smoothly. So offering choices you can live with. So I would love for Elon's here and 3 other people are listening on Facebook. I know that usually about 50 people watch this every week. So put into the comment, like, I come back and I chat with you. What is something you would love your child to be more motivated to do, where I could maybe even give you some suggestions of choices you could offer? So giving choices you can live with. Got it, right? The other thing we want to do is, like, really think about, where can I offer my child the opportunity to have more control, more influence, and really gather their input, okay? Because we often do a more of a managerial style of parenting where we're like on as their manager, and then we kind of kick back like we're in the break room. And I get that, because you kind of, oh my gosh, you get it all done and you're like, whew, I need to recover, right? What I invite you into the possibility of doing, and this is what my immersion families have signed up for, right? They're like, I want to learn how to do this style of sort of working as a team, is like becoming more and more of a collaborative team, becoming more and more of a collaborative parent with your children. And of course, we're bumping back up to the competence side, like at the level that they're ready for. So those of you who are here with teens and tweens, it's going to be a completely different conversation than if you have for 4, 6, and 8-year-olds. Yeah. So what is it that you, I see someone else just joined too. What is it that you would love your child to be more motivated to do? Write it in the comments and I'll refresh it. So when we're gathering input, how I'm going to try to roll through some age levels here.
Would love your child to be more motivated to do. Write it.
One of the things that we can do is, start with like the very basic routines. And so if they're very, very little, oftentimes we are doing 2 really important things. First of all, we're creating some structure and consistency in their lives and helping them to learn practical life skills, like how do I dress myself independently? How do I remember a sequence of things, right? And so we're going to be adding in quite a bit of that interest and competence, but we're going to be also building in choices along the way. So for example, you might create a chart for them for their morning routine that's pictures and little flaps that they can flap that, close when they're done. For example, as a way to make it interesting, have that sense of competence of like, I know what the steps are. All I have to do is walk over here and look at the pictures and I'll remember. So you're supporting them and meeting them right where they are. But then also the choice might be of like, what order do they do these 5 things in this chunk of time in the morning? So if they have 30 minutes to do these 5 things, what could it be? Yeah. What is it that they could choose? So Elon says brushing teeth. Great. So Elon, I would say already, if you can put some choice into the morning routine of when it happens, that might be key for her, for your daughter. I know you have a daughter. And just letting her have a choice of like, does she want to do it first? And you can even say this, like, do you want to do it first and get it over with? Or do you want to do it last, or somewhere in the middle in between 2 things you like? And it just gets her, it kind of moves away from the question of, is this happening? Which is not up for choice. It's not up, she doesn't get to decide whether she brushes her teeth or not. That's something that is like a requirement of the morning. So she can eat before she goes to school. However, maybe just having this conversation about where it lands in the routine could be a way that she can kind of go, she might not love it, but she can go, I guess I'll want to get it over with, or, oh, if I put it right in between these 2 things that I don't mind, that I like, maybe it'll go by faster. And helping her think through those kinds of things, because in the end of the day, it's not even just about getting her to brush her teeth. It's also, and I want all of you to listen to this, no matter what age your child is or what stage, it's also for them to internalize that, like, when I'm not motivated to do something, I can be aware of it and I can strategize about how to get through it. It's like that. How many of you have at least one chore that you don't love? For some people it's weeding, for other people it's, dealing with the trash and recycling, for other people it's vacuuming, like there's something, right? And so even we can take something that we don't enjoy and we can start thinking in these terms of like, do I want to get it over with? Do I want to save it for last? I want to do it in between 2 interesting things. So that's something you could play with, Elon. And I would even challenge you, because of Leia's age, I would challenge you to think about the interest one, especially for her. The younger they are, like the more that really matters, right? So, and she loves fun. So bringing in some lightness and some game and some fun in there, I think, musical or some kind of like silly thing that you do while it's happening, or like a musical, maybe like you play a song and that's how long she brushes, but she gets to pick the song. So I would even kind of, bring it down from the big routine down to like her specific toothbrushing time. Like how can she have influence combined with something that's interesting to her, like during the toothbrushing time. And I've had families go back and forth, because sometimes they like need to watch a little video or play a song or like listen to an audiobook or count to 20, and then they promise to stop brushing as soon as they get to 20, as soon as the parent gets to 20, the kid gets to spit and you're done, and then the other side of it is like she needs to hold still and let you do it. I've had parents of toddlers do that all the way through kindergarten. So lots of options there, Elon. I'm curious which ones stand out to you. Those of you who are listening, I've got about 7 people here live on Facebook. Please let me know where you're tuning in from, the ages of your kids, and what you would love and adore for your child to be more motivated to do on their own. Okay. Patty is saying she wishes her son would show more interest in learning his letters or counting. Really good one. Okay, great. So Patty, we can roll through the I, C, and A for you right now. Because the two key things, which I don't know if you caught yet, Patty, this is for your oldest, obviously not your baby. Still got your baby in arms, I know, or just like, right, just finishing your like fourth trimester, right, with your little one. So with your older child who's preschool, kindergarten age, for those of you who don't know Patty, thinking about what could make it interesting for him. So always, you can turn it into a little bit of a game of like, I wonder, like racing the clock, like, I wonder how many you can do in 2 minutes. Let's see. And he gets through like, three rows of practicing letters. And you're like, wow, I wonder if we could go for 4. So you could turn it into a game that's kind of hacking into interest. You can also have the letters be about something he's interested in, like the first sound of dinosaurs he's really geeking out on, or the first letter of every family member's name. Or you can ask him to say any sentence and you're going to write it, and then he needs to trace over the first letter of each of the words that he said. So it's bringing it back to him, getting into his world. We've talked a lot about, right, Patty? And I know that you're like really thinking about being in the immersion for the year, but you've been doing such a good job of coming to these talks and also attending the 6-day challenge. And it's just been so fun to get to know you and your family that you're keep pulling in these tools, Patty. So I'm especially curious, like which ones stand out to you since you've been hanging with us for quite some time now. The other thing Patty would like help with is putting on his socks. Okay, great. So that's this one we can roll through the competence one. Although I want to mention for letters and numbers, you got to meet him right where he's at. Yeah. So if you're doing things like, trying to sound out whole words and you're just seeing him like put on the brakes, he's just not interested, then you might want to go back to just letters for a while, letter sounds and beginning sounds, and then work up to whole words again, or maybe limit the set of words so it's only 10 at a time that he's like working on, so in the shorter, so he can get used to those before you move on to the next set. Here's my little teacher hat, getting put back on right now. I've taught hundreds of kids how to read inside and outside of school, so it's kind of my jam. So putting on his socks for competence, like how many of you have a child that has at least one thing that's a motor skill, whether it's doing something really advanced like pushing, like refilling the gasoline and starting the lawnmower and pushing it and finishing the whole lawn, which would probably be more in the 10 and up category. Or if it's something that's younger, right? Like fastening a button or tying a shoe or putting on your socks. So one thing I would do is emphasize, in terms of competence, like meet him right where he's at and just be like, wow, I'm so excited. You know how to put on your pants and you know how to put on your shirt. Like, can you show me how you do that? How do you put on your shirt? And like, give him some great attention for him putting on like the things he can put on. And then he's like, I can't put on my socks, let's say, or whatever he's saying. You could say, oh, hey, sweetie, just show me what you can do. Just show me what you can do. Can you stretch it open? Like maybe you do one, he does one, right? Can you open it like this? And then, okay, can you stick your toes in there? What else can you do? And then, so he might have a sense that his competence is actually lower than it is, or he's accurate. It's hard. Like he's not quite getting it, like the thumb and the stretching open and the toes in, like it's kind of tricky at first. So perhaps then you can break it into really small steps for him and say, okay, if you can just stretch it open, I'll help you fit your toes in this time. Next time, you're going to try to do your toes yourself, but I'll be right here to help you. And that's what scaffolding looks like with support, right? Like we get to be there side by side. Another thing you can have him do is practice putting socks on figurines or dolls, or on you, like putting your sock on or his dad's sock on. I know that you have there's a 2-parent, household. So it's you and your partner, his father, right? So, having him try that with his dad. And then now that you have the baby, like what a great opportunity for him to like practice putting little socks on. So you can see how like, these are, if we look at the competence, it's like skill, right? Where the autonomy comes in is choice. So you can give him choices like, which color sock to pick out. If you do one and he does one, or he's going to try first and you watch, like giving him options for how that competence piece can build is part of bringing the autonomy. And then the other thing you can do too is sometimes what the issue with socks is that you're sending them away to go put their socks on when really they need to be with you. So you can say, go pick out your socks, whatever pair you want, you know, maybe out of those 3 pairs we looked at last night, and bring them to me, and then we can try and do them right here together. So it could just be too that his tipping point is wanting that support. And then you can even give choices around, like if he's just refusing, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to walk away for a few minutes, take care of baby brother, baby sister, and it's a boy. Patty, did you have a boy or a girl? I forgot. I'm so sorry. Let's go see. I'm going to go. I'll be right back, and hopefully you'll be ready. You know, maybe you'll even have put a sock on. We'll see, and then leave and come back. Because also sometimes if you feel like they're just digging in, you just need to give a choice of like, and you come back and you say, oh, are you ready for me to help you? Or you know, or do you want to do it yourself? And you bring that choice in again. So sometimes you just need a little, yes, you had a girl, Patty. Thank you for reminding me. Sorry about that. And congratulations. Moving on to Christine. Oh, and you're welcome, Patty. I'm so glad they're good ideas and that you like them. Put in the comment like 1 or 2 that you definitely want to try, because that, even, you know, within my world, when I'm with my immersion members, we always claim something our next action step. So we stay accountable, and then over a whole year, you just become this really active, you know, person working on your parenting in all the ways that you want. Elon, oh wait, sorry, let's go to Elon and Christine. So Elon says, I like the idea of choosing the order, which means we would build out the routine. Yeah. So the things she doesn't have choice about are which items need to be done for it to be called done. Yeah. But what order it happens in really helps to bring in that autonomy. And she can help us with these tasks in the routine. Good. Right. So then it's more like she's being helpful, like especially if some parts of her routine are more like household responsibilities, things like, you know, like putting the dishes in the sink after breakfast. If you wanted to build in some of those, definitely. And then you know, sometimes when you reframe it as, instead of you do this and you do that and take care of your thing and you, and you say us, like we, like, oh, it's time for us to get dressed. Yeah. You know, do you want to do it in my room, or what, should I come into your room? Like, you know, and it just can become a little bit more friendly that way. The song too. Yeah. Nice, Elon. Yeah. I think for brushing teeth in particular, there's something about like, if it's an unpleasant experience for the kid, you also want to check out the firmness of the toothbrush and make sure it's not too firm. And you might want to try like one that has a little character on it, so it feels more friendly. Different toothpaste, change it up, because kids have sensitivities, which I had mentioned earlier. But I think that the thing that the kids are often sensitive to is like, how long is this going to last? Like, how long do I have to do this? Yeah, great, Elon. Sometimes you race each other to get dressed. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, and I remember that running, how many times, or who can run around the car, how many times can you get around? Like you did some kind of running around in the yard that was like really, really fun and motivating. You noticed you really like that. So little games like that is wonderful. So Christine is sharing. She has a 4 and a 7-year-old. Hi, Christine. One issue that she's having is that, oh, when your children make a mess, they're resistant to cleaning it up. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, this example, I feel you. I've been here so many times where like your 4-year-old will spill cereal and then says he will not clean it up. We say we'll do it together, but he still complains or resists. Okay, right. So sometimes with 4 is a little tricky because they don't always get this concept, but you can very simply say, sweetheart, I will absolutely help you clean it up, but as long as you're cleaning up too. So if you're sweeping, I'll sweep too. You know, if you're wiping, I'll wipe too. You know, because this is your mess I'm helping you with. So you can try that with 4. You know, that sometimes works because they feel it's clear, like you're not just going to clean up after them, because if they get that sense, they'll stop. They'll stop sometimes, right? So there's a bit of that. I mean, I remember like my 5 years in preschool, how many times I worked the lunch area where I had 24 children eating lunch and you need to clean up their area, right? And so I would do things like say, they're like, no, I'm not going to clean it. And I'm like, look, listen, I'll help you get started, but then you're going to need to take over. Or you can do it all by yourself. You know, it's up to you. Would you like to do it all on your own, or would you like some of my help? And they say, okay, but if I'm going to start it, you need to watch. Are you watching? Are you watching? Here, look, I'm starting. Okay, now it's your turn to take over. Can you do it while I watch? And then they do it and I watch. I'm like, yeah, you got it. And like, there's just something about bringing a little attention and energy in there that can support the sort of getting it going. And you can offer a firm boundary, which includes a choice. You can say, well, sweetheart, you know, thing is, like, we don't get excused from the table if there's a big mess. So yeah, you can choose to stay at the table until you feel ready to clean it up. Or you could clean it up now and be excused. So do you want to stay, or do you want to clean up so you can get up? And sometimes they will say, stay, you know, they'll say stay, and they'll kind of wait it out and kind of test it. And they start to get up like, oh, you forgot. So what did you forget, sweetheart? I still see cereal on the table, right? Would you like some help getting started? You know, and sometimes that's where the softening happens, when they realize there is a firm line. They're like, okay, let's get this, we'll do this. And then when it comes to complaints, I would say that is actually a step up from not doing it or refusing. And I wouldn't take it too seriously right now. And this is where we all go, wait, well, hold on, Vanessa, like, we want to get them to this place where they're cooperating and you've won their cooperation and you're a team, like you described at the beginning, what gives, like, it's all about taking those steps. So if you've moved out of refusing to do it to complaining while doing it, that's okay. Get there several times, and then we can talk about how to shift from the complaining to the, you know, to the more like owning it and taking responsibility. Yeah. Okay. Good, Christine. Let me see what else you have here. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, no problem. You don't want to physically hold his hand. Yeah, that's really helpful. I mean, so sometimes kids will let something else physically hold them. So like you can be like, well, I'm gonna need to tuck in your chair real tight until you're ready to clean up. You know, you can't get up yet, right? You can also like take him like way, like you can actually scoop him up and take him away from the table and kind of change up the scene. And just go, let's just take a little moment here. And you can like go somewhere very unusual, usually wouldn't go, like into the garage or something, and just be like, so here's the deal. When we go back through the door, we're going to look at the table and we're going to see what's there to clean up. Got it? Yeah. And sometimes it's like, they'll take you more seriously if you get out of just the back and forth conversation and actually take some sort of action, even if it's not something as physical as holding his hand. You see? So maybe change it up about the physical part and see if it just gets their attention. Yeah, enough to kind of bring things back into focus and kind of lay out those choices. Yeah. What about a 4-year-old calling his sister stupid? I say it's not nice or kind, don't know what to do. Yeah, who else knows what this is like? Yeah. I've got 2 or 3 clients right now who are actually working on this specifically. Like, what do I do about this potty language, or what do I do about this, you know, name calling? Elon, I don't know if you saw the recording from last week's training, but it's our watch party. This is something you're interested in. We talked a lot about it in the evening watch party in the immersion last week in the training. But the quick version here, Christine. First of all, 4-year-olds are still experimenting with power, as all kids are, but especially around language. Like, they don't, I mean, you can definitely teach a 4-year-old the concept of kind and unkind words, and you can use that language. And I would try by starting there. However, I think there needs to be sort of like a response that has some sort of follow through, because I think that just letting them know often doesn't really get through. Like, it doesn't connect to what their goal is behind the word. And so we're just a little bit of guesswork, as a lot of parenting is. But here's some possible goals that your 4-year-old may have. Your 4-year-old may be jealous of the attention that your older child is getting and really just wants attention and confirmation that they are worthy of that attention. So you might just be looking at, like, what is the timing of when the 4-year-old says that? And does the 4-year-old get a lot of attention when they say that word? So a lot of times these bad words are all about, like, oh, it worked, I got your attention. So you might want to look at attention. You might want to look at power, because the other thing that can happen after name calling is there's a really big reaction from the person who was called the name. And so one way you can kind of work on that is you can kind of coach your 7-year-old about having kind of like a walking away reaction. So it's less intense and not a lot of fireworks. And just being like, I don't like that, something very clear to a 4-year-old, like, I don't like that. And to even put a hand up like this and then like walk away. And then if they're pursued, then you'd be like, please stop. I don't like that. And then the third thing I would be looking at is, was there some sort of injury that this is the way your child is expressing like hurt, right? So maybe they're calling their sister stupid because they knocked down their Lego creation. Maybe they're calling their sister stupid because they interrupted them 3 or 4 times, talking over them and was being bossy, that hurt their feelings. And really all they have to show that is stupid, So in that case, and in any time these words are being used, you could be like, whoa, hey, we don't say those kinds of words. And then the younger they are, the more we can use this strategy of being like, did you mean to say, that hurts my feelings? Or I don't like that. Or, can I have a turn? Because you kind of read the situation of like, what is this? Because tantrums, meltdowns, name calling, hitting, kicking, it's all a form of communication. And so trying to get to the root of like, what is it that's being communicated with that word stupid? If it's just a bad habit and doesn't seem like there's much of a goal, you're going to want to give it the least amount of attention possible and just have like a quick and clear way to deal with it. And just being like, oh, honey, we don't say those words. And then you can turn to the sister and say, I'm so sorry that you were called a name. That's not okay with me. And then move on. And over time, the 4-year-old will be like, oh, okay. I'm not, this is not really, but if they have a big reaction to that, then it was probably some other goal that was going on. Expressing anger, getting attention, getting power, something, expressing hurt. So Christine, it's a bit of sleuthing. It's not just like one thing to do, but now you have some things to try. Pearl's here. Hi, Pearl. So Pearl is saying, what about trying new food items like vegetables? Ooh, anyone here who's had success, who's listening to this, who's had their child try new foods? It's one of the most fun ones, Pearl, I'll just say, to put out to the group. I would even encourage you to make your own post into the group, like just click on Raising Our Resilience Parent Group and be like, what are all the awesome ways, what are all the ways you got your kids to eat vegetables? Because it's a huge spectrum. So the reason why kids will not try new foods is often because of some sensitivities, and children's palates just are more sensitive. And the thing about vegetables is they have a stronger bitter flavor, and bitter can absolutely tell a child, like it can create the experience of disgust. And the reason why is because it's bitter is associated with a lot of poisonous things. And so we are like kind of hardwired, not every person to the same degree, but to be sensitive to bitter and to reject it. And so that's why the opposite is true of sweet, because when things are sweet in nature, they tend to be edible. It's really rare to have a sweet thing that's actually poisonous, right? So just having some science and some compassion for why your child may or may not be willing to try new vegetables. So if it is a new vegetable and you've noticed a pattern of them being more sensitive to it when they're bitter vegetables, like dark leafy greens, or like beets have a certain bitterness, and a couple other vegetables, a lot of like the skin on a carrot tends to be more bitter than the inside, which is sweet. They always say add a little sweet, salty, and sometimes sour to balance the flavor out, so the tongue gets to experience like the sweet and salty alongside the bitter, and then grow a tolerance for it. So one thing that has saved a lot of grief, and this is the only tip I'm going to give you, Pearl, because I'm going to challenge you to go and make a post, okay, for this specific question, just because there's so many great ways to like hide vegetables or get kids into it, like kind of a tasting party idea. Like there's so many. Would be to add a little salty sweet by getting them familiar with different sauces, whether that's like something like a ranch dressing or something like, like a little vinaigrette, because some kids actually really like sour, kind of experiment, a little teriyaki, experiment with sauces that have just a little bit of that sweet to kind of balance out the bitter. It's that could be your breakthrough, Pearl. In terms of motivation, there's the age-old interests things about like, flying the airplane into the mouth for the first bite, or the competence of like, what is this thing, and actually, and even later, I'm kind of zooming ahead here, the R relatedness of seeing other people eat it and enjoy it. But for our theme today, autonomy, I would say giving them an option of when they eat it, kind of like the routine, the brushing the teeth routine. Like, are they going to take that one exploratory bite, which could be your limit of like, you don't have to eat it, but you do need to have one bite of it to at least try it. We had a breakthrough around mangoes in my house not too long ago where she said, I don't like mangoes. I don't want to eat those mangoes. And we're like, we're not asking you to eat all the mangoes, sweetie. Just take one bite and actually give it a chance, give it a chance. And she kind of was resistant to it for a few meals, but then we kept modeling like, oh, these mangoes are so good. I can't believe they're so yummy. And finally she tried it and she was like, oh, those are pretty good. And we had this look, the two of us, the two adults in the house, we just kind of gave each other this look like, yeah, mangoes are incredible, obviously. But she was unfamiliar with it, right? And I think maybe she had a little bit of like the peel by accident one time. And so she had this like reaction and associated that with the word mango. And so she had to kind of reintroduce it. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Yeah, you're welcome, Pearl. I'm glad I could help you. Yeah, and this is so fun, right? So we can lean into the I care model of motivation and these motivation hacks in a community like this, where I'm sure, I would love to, like somebody's comment if somebody asked a question that you really appreciate that they asked. Let's give each other some love here and some support of like what it feels like to be able to be in a forum where there are many questions being asked and you all get to get the benefit of each other's questions and suggestions. Yeah, so get it, Dana. Hi, Dana. Nice to see you here. Yeah, one bite, right? So she's asking about getting a child to taste or eat one bite. Excuse me. So one trick I have too, then maybe Pearl like this too, is so take one of their favorite foods and put a tiny amount of the new thing on the food. Like just a tiny little bit, and you can even tell her, she's like, you can show her, I'm like, I'm just gonna put the tiniest amount I can, look, you can barely see it, like a tip of a carrot or something into a new sauce you want her to try, because maybe she likes the sauce and you can put that sauce she now identifies as good onto things that she usually won't try. And she's like, just do a tiny little bit and just put a little bit and see if she'll just at least touch it to her tongue. And if she says, yuck, you can say, it's okay, good job trying, hon. I'm so glad you tried. Maybe this is not the sauce for you, and you kind of move on and try different things, and just like giving her that the room to not like it without trying to convince her that she likes it, without telling her that somehow her reaction is wrong, can be a helpful thing. And then the other thing is, at a certain age, you can kind of just insist, and it tends to happen closer to kindergarten though, Dana. So I don't think Zah's quite there yet. Yeah. Where she just has to try it and before she has her other food. And it can become a little bit of a negotiation, but that's okay, right? So you might start with, yes, you can have your, whatever her favorite thing is. Let's say it's like rice and beans. You can have your rice and beans, but you need to have at least, you need to have some of your salad. And then she might say, can I just have 3 bites? And you could say, sure, you don't have to eat the whole thing, just 3 bites. And by the way, I know that she's at Nia House, and they definitely ask the kids to like take at least one bite of their food starting in like late preschool, so that they can continue to explore their food and eat their protein rich thing first so that they have enough nutrition for the day. Yeah. Dana, let me know if that was helpful or if anything stood out to you. And so let me just refresh this to make sure I've got everybody's current comments here. 1 second.
Dana, let me know if that was helpful.
The sound always comes on. All right, great. So autonomy, where can we give our kids more influence, more control, gather their input? Dana, one thing you could consider too is it's not that she has to try the thing that you put out. It's that there are 3 things put out and she needs to pick one to dip her carrot into, for example, right? To try. that could be another way to offer choices when it's coming to trying food. Another way is it's on mom and dad's plate and she gets to look at their plates and pick one thing to try. Sometimes it can be also helpful to do it in like totally out of context. Like, hey, Zah, I'm cooking something. I want to make it as good as I can. I think it might need to be sweeter or maybe saltier. Can you just put a little bit on your tongue and tell me what you think? And sometimes just taking it completely out of the like table time battle, which if you've already had a lot of interactions around it, can kind of be like the worst place to try to restart this. Do it in a totally different context. And maybe it's about like even being out in public, right? Like going to a restaurant, and that's where you kind of try this new thing. Like, wow, they have, look at, like, I can imagine being at a Korean restaurant and they have all the different dishes in the small plates in front, and just like looking at them all, and just, you know, everyone at the table picks one to try, kind of thing, to just sort of start expanding, or like at least one to like touch to your lips and lick it to see what it tastes like. So we can't turn picky eaters into adventurous eaters overnight, just like we can't get kids to just love brushing their teeth, or you know, immediately become so inspired in their letters and counting and things overnight. But slowly but surely, if we keep bringing in these motivation tools, what ends up happening is the kids have more and more exposure to them, and they're more and more likely to not only like receive them from us well, but we get to see like which tend to work better. Like some kids, it's really all about the competence. Like if you can meet them where they're at and scaffold, they just become so much more confident and more motivated. For other kids, it's going to be interest, right? Like if it's not sparkling for them, if they're not feeling some like, oh, that's neat, like, you know, good luck, right? For some, it's autonomy. Like they're going to be like, heck no, unless you give them enough influence, power, and control and choices along the way where they really feel that they at least can influence things. We'll get into the R and the E in our next 2 weeks here. Thank you so much for coming, and congratulations for taking another step towards a collaborative way forward with your kiddos in your lives. And do give some love to each other in the comments. If you're listening to the recording and you have a scenario that you'd love to have my feedback on, drop it into the comments and I'll come back and we can jam right in there. I've had some really great conversations offline too, out of these, from folks taking my quiz or applying to have a strategy session with me. So in case anybody out there that speaks to you, I can go ahead and put just grab it, the quiz link. This is something that it runs through all the different areas that I've seen parents get hung up on, where they get stuck. And so Pearl, no, I don't have a separate thing prepared on that answer, but this is recorded and in the group. So since you're a member of the group, once this live finishes, you can go find the recording in the group and re-listen to it and pause as many times as you like to take notes. That's the beauty of being a part of the Raising Our Resilience community. Also, if you feel like, man, you know, like I was saying, if you wanted to go and see like, where could things be hung up the most, or, you know, is it across the board? There's little pieces that could really be helpful to put into place, whether it's how we solve conflicts in our home, or how we can get on the same page about, you know, our goals and being a team, or if it's your routines or limits, you know, check that out. Check out the quiz. And at the bottom, there's a place where you can also apply for a free 20-minute strategy session. And then we'll go over your quiz results, kind of map out a little plan of what steps you could take in the next months to a year. And then we'll also see if it's a good fit to work together. But really, it's my pleasure to just meet you. And, you know, there's no obligation. We'll part as friends, or you'll just be able to fold back into this public community, Raising Our Resilience parent group, if that's what's best. And what I would encourage you to also do, and I think it's just such a generous thing to do, is to, you know, if you got value out of this, to go ahead and head over to the Raising Our Resilience parent group here and find that little blue invite button. We've had at least 100 people join our group from the invitation of others. I know Dana's here from an invitation. I think several of you also found me through school workshops. So there's 2 exciting things you can do right now. You can click on invite and invite friends, that just by clicking on invite, and then you can just, you know, actually, you know, look up like oh, my friend John, and see who comes up, and you click on the people that you want to invite. Let's say I want to invite this person. You just hit send invite, and it invites them to join, which is really fun. Another thing you can do is, I'll show you in here, there is a form, I'll find it. There's a form that you can actually apply and request one of our free workshops. Give me a moment, I'll find it. And what that means is that every year, a few times a year, we actually give free or low cost workshops to schools, particularly preschools and K through 6 schools. And so if you're part of a school community that you think could benefit from these kinds of topics, whether it's motivation hacks or getting that back to school routine running smoothly, or how to navigate meltdowns, tantrums, and power struggles, those might be some things that would be really helpful for your community. It's really simple to fill out this form. And once you fill out the form, you just let me know like what school it is, and I will let you know very quickly. I'll respond to you if your school community qualifies.
It's a good fit to work together.
Get you in touch with, and get me. I will send you an email that you can send to either a PTA organizer or to an administrator at your school, at your kid's school would be the best, of course. Where I will be able to start a conversation with them to look into if it's a good fit to bring a workshop to your school. So I'm not finding the post at this moment, so I will dig it up and put it in the chat here in just a moment. So I'm just curious, with the few minutes we have left, does anybody have any questions, comments, wishes, concerns, maybe anything that you really liked about it that you don't want to forget? Share it with me in the chat so I can interact with you a few more minutes here. Any lingering questions? I'm looking for those. And as I'm looking for those, I'm also wanting to acknowledge that many of you shared your favorite summer moment in our group this last week, which was so fun. There's a post up right now that has all of the like photos that people have posted up. Yeah, so check that out. And it looks like I don't have the school link ready for you at this moment. I'll try one more thing. Sorry about that, because I thought it was a post, but maybe it hasn't been published yet. I'll make sure that's up real quick because it is first come, first serve. So we want to make sure that if you are really interested, you get a chance to request it. So let me grab a link right now for you. Yeah, here, this is how we'll do it. Okay. And then we'll put up the post soon. So here we go. And I'm going to check the chat.
Okay, so the few minutes we have left.
Here we go. Okay. So that is a school workshop request. And, don't be shy. If you have a preschool or elementary school community that you're a part of, even if it's like your sister's kids' school, right? Your nieces and nephews' school, or a school that you just graduated from, like, don't be shy. Like, go ahead and request it. And the really fun thing is that then you get to help dozens or even sometimes up to 100 people. Like, I've had these workshops sometimes be attended by 30, 40, 50, even 100 people. I've done them locally, but I've also done them internationally and in different states and time zones, and just so much fun to expand our community and help more people. And so let us know if that, if you have a school in mind by using that school workshop form, please. Elon likes the 3 food item challenge. Awesome. Elon's also going to make a chart of new foods to try and award badges to the food once tried 1, 2, and 3 times. Ooh, that's fun. I think particularly like it just sort of is a way to track so that your daughter can go back and see that she's tried on these foods. Yeah, like she's tried out these foods and have a sense of pride around it. One thing is I wouldn't make it all about the badges. I would just have that be a reinforcer instead of a motivator. So, and just be like, wow. And I would maybe even add in like, you're really having quite a food adventure. Like you're becoming a bit more adventurous with foods. How exciting. I wonder what food you'll try next. Like kind of emphasizing that versus winning the badges. Yeah, great, Elon. So fun. I can't wait to hear how that goes. All right, you all. Yeah, you're welcome, Pearl. And everybody have a great week. We'll be back next week for the next part 3 of our motivation series. And be in touch. We'll see you next time. Lots of love to you all. I'm so inspired by each and every one of you who have shown up and continue to lean into your big-hearted wishes for yourself and your kids. I do believe that it's every parent's right to have access to resources and community to support them along the way. That you could do this on your own, but friends, you don't have to. So congratulations on finding a wonderful community of parents to hang out with. And it's my honor to support you. We'll see you next week. Okay, bye for now, everybody. Take care.